of this market. Already, we've been testing vehicles in Nigeria and Ghana. We've been collecting data from rideshare drivers, fleet drivers. We've been literally paying drivers to submit their data to us. How much do you make? How much gas do you buy? We are tracking their vehicles, seeing the distance. So the research and data collection part has been going on probably a year and a half. Same thing in Ghana. At this point, developing an assembly plant in Nigeria. There is also an assembly plant in development for Accra, Ghana. Is going to be in Tema. The other activity, to fully answer your question, is we are already training and recruiting electric vehicle technicians. So that is going on. As a matter of fact, we just hired 16 or 18 of them. They are getting ready to start their online training, then they will go to classroom, and then they will go to practical training. So that's where we are in summary. Challenges, interestingly, because Nigeria is a country that has, so to speak, experienced a lot of trauma relating to electricity. You find out that the average Nigerian person, all through the first question is power, right? But that has not been our experience, and we can talk more about that. So power could be a challenge, but power is very much a perceived problem. The other challenges we've had is that this is just a new product. 90% of what our company does is to actually educate people, because so many people don't even understand that they are perfect electric vehicle consumers, customers. So that is there. This is a novel product. So some of the other challenges are just, again, the charging network. Even though we are an automotive manufacturer, we have to reluctantly get involved in developing charging. It's just like being Peugeot or any automotive manufacturer, and all of a sudden you find yourself developing gas stations. Foreign exchange rate, we find ourselves in a challenging economic condition. But the way I like to tell people is that SAGLEV is actually a solution to that. So the fact that we understand that we bring in factors that actually help you to maneuver, around the economy is very encouraging to us. So, the challenges are there, but those are some of the main challenges. The data is surprisingly encouraging, because that is why you actually go somewhere and you collect the data. You can't just sit back and say, oh, this is what I think the data is. But the data is very surprisingly interesting. I want to tell you, when we first started talking about coming to West Africa, while gasoline was 180, 140 at some point a liter here, Naira, gasoline was 850 Naira a liter in Ghana. Same in Cote d'Ivoire. So for you to sell an electric vehicle in Nigeria, it was not economically really viable. You can't make the economic case easily. But that has changed. A gallon is what, 617 now? So the story is different. And all of a sudden, and that actually led us to understanding that we have to fast track our plans. A rideshare driver that uses the smallest available vehicle on the road is spending 9,000 Naira a day on petrol. If you are saying a Toyota Corolla, Toyota Camry, Honda Accord, now you are looking at anywhere 17, 18, 19, 20,000 Naira. Now, if your car is even older, then you're spending more, because an older vehicle, an older motor burns more gasoline. Now, that is compared to an electric vehicle, which that smallest vehicle, some of the examples I will show you here today, it costs for 300 kilometers of distance, it costs less than 3,000 naira to charge it. That is such a big. What we've also found from the data is just the cost of ownership of an electric vehicle. It's not what people think it is, because the average electric vehicle will cost you 50 to 60% less in maintenance cost if you just take the first 4 years of the vehicle, talk less of down the line. An internal combustion engine vehicle will keep costing you more. An electric vehicle has much less moving parts. There's no transmission, there's no kickstarter, there's no crankshaft, there's no oil, there's no moving parts. It's just a battery and a transmission. Surprisingly interesting. We've always thought that this would be possible. I've driven electric vehicles in the US since 2013. I drove one of the first Teslas ever manufactured. And I've always wondered, why is it that in Africa, in Nigeria, we don't drive more EVs? But a lot of it is education. So that's why I say we have to educate people. What we think is impossible is actually possible. Now, what the data tells you is a little bit scary, because what it tells you is that between 50 to 70% of Nigerians are actually potential electric vehicle customers. Listen, Saglev wants other people to manufacture electric vehicles in Nigeria. So it's not if you are able to invest in EV manufacturing, we don't mind you coming on board and saying, hey, listen, I want to do this. This is a country of 200 million. Listen, Saglev is not going to satisfy that market. I can assure you of that. We just want to make sure that people get the benefits of electric vehicles. And it's not just in personal vehicles, all the way to last mile transportation, all the way to even trucking, public transportation, Uber, because you want to attack the highest offender, which is public and mass transportation. Right?
Hello and welcome. This is Business Day TV. I am Kemi Michael. Now, stop motion has been an age-old form of animation, and in Nigeria, it has been very unpopular. And I know you're wondering what stop motion animation is. Well, wonder no more. I have Esther Kemi Gbadamosi, CEO of Radio City, right here with me.
All right.
Good
Thank
afternoon.
you very much. Yeah,
Welcome.
good afternoon. Thank you.
God help me now, help your boy now. I did try now. Because this also no be pure water. Oh.
So tell me, what is stop motion animation?
Stop motion animation is the movement of physical objects, in time. That's unlike 2D and 3D, that's done in the digital space, on your PC. Stop motion is done physically. That means you move a physical object, but you move it frame by frame, in the space of time. So in practical, you take your camera and then you take one shot at a time, So if you have to move your hands from here to here, you just move it in bits, and then, take this and take the shot, take this and take the shot and take the shot. And then the eyes, the illusion of movement just occurs when you put all the frames together. So it has a sequence. The sequence of frames causes there to be movement. So you do this, in creating a story, obviously you have lots of movements. And so, that's all that you put together. So you have lots of shots, to make up scenes and then, of course, to make up a film.
That sounds really exhausting.
Well, yeah.
But
Sometimes.
why did you choose stop motion? I mean, you could have used, as you said, the 2D and 3D tools on the internet right now. Why not use those? Why stop motion?
I'm not sure I found stop motion. I think stop motion found me.
Okay.
I used to be a 3D animator. I was a 3D animator for about 8 years. Then I got married, had kids, and then I couldn't cope with 3D anymore. And then, at the point where I was really trying to figure out what I needed to do, I started, posing their toys, the children's toys. And, I had this Spider-Man that I would, have the Spider-Man poses kind of thing. And because I liked the poses so much, I'll take a picture of it, and then I'll do another one, then take a picture of it, that kind of thing. And, when I put the sequences together, there was interesting movements, and after that, I worked on short sequences, basketball sequences, all of that. And they were quite interesting, until 2019. This was 10 years ago, this year, and 2019, I decided, okay, let's work on something, just something very short, about a minute long. It was just some sort of mannequin we used. And we just told this story, simple story of the power situation in Nigeria. When we were done, we submitted it to festivals, and here was different festivals, all over the world. And we're like, whoa, it was just about a minute, and that was it. It was like, we can do something better than this, let's do something else. And so that's how we made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 films so far, like that. So it's essentially stop motion finding me. I'm not sure I found it, because I did, at the point I started it, I didn't even know what the name was, but it seemed like something I could use to express myself. I could tell my stories. I had done documentaries in the past, so I wasn't new to filmmaking. I had made short films. I'd won awards doing documentaries. So we're doing it on a sort of big scale. But then, this was animation, which was something that was really dear to me. It was kind of like a side thing. I think it was a side thing till COVID. COVID was what made it become up and center for me. It's suddenly becoming something that was way beyond, our local space, and going international, has been something that has come some sort of a surprise. But then, yes, I love the process. So yeah.
I see that you were made fellow at the Berlin Ale.
Yes,
Please tell us
Biennale.
more about that.
Oh, okay. Last year, for the first time, Biennale, what they do is every year, being one of the biggest festivals in the world. After Sundance, Cannes, you have sort of like Biennale, and they pick 200 filmmakers every year. So for the past 22 years, they have picked 200. And so usually you have maybe 1, 2 Nigerians, sometimes 3, that's filmmakers that are, very high profile ones, that they pick. But last year, for the first time in animation, they picked me, as a Biennale talent. So I was in Berlin last year, and it was sort of like out of this world experience, for someone who was even for Biennale, it's a film festival, a film festival that has almost 500,000 registered, attendance. So it's huge, so even for them, animation is a little bit not their usual thing, but, having to bring in someone from animation, I really needed to find my feet there. Among the talents, I think we're just probably around 5 of us, that were from animation. And so we really just had to find ways to connect, and which was fantastic, for all the other things as well. And so what that did was it gave me the opportunity to be able to apply last year, towards the end of last year, for fellowship. Now, what happens is that of the 10,000, there are about 10,000 talents now, because it's been over 22 years of picking 200 people. So they have the opportunity to apply for fellowship. You understand? It's a partnership between Biennale, Talent, and MasterCard. So now, if you have a project that you want to push, you just needed to apply for it, and they picked only 2 people. So it was crazy that, So I applied. I'm not sure I was thinking they would pick, but as far as I was concerned, they can only pick if you apply. If you don't, your chances are zero, and so I applied. I was really shocked, in January when I saw congratulations. You have been said. I was like, did they pick many people? Because that was my first thought. Maybe they picked many people this time. Only to find out that we're just two that they picked. It was very humbling experience. Because it took things to another level completely. For someone in stop motion, completely unknown field, in Nigeria, even internationally. There's a fight for us to be able to have space. When Pinocchio won Best Animation last year, it was a big deal for us, considering there's a stop motion animated film, and so it's everything we get. It's huge. And so when Benali gave us that, focus front and center, it's that was all that was in my head, that look, this is a big deal for us.
Kind of is.
Yes, it is. It is a big deal because, it gave us the opportunity to have conversations, with lots of people that were really interested in seeing Africa, because stop motion is also not so big in Africa, seeing Africa develop in this light. Because to be honest with you, I think that stop motion is the perfect medium for us in Africa. Why do I think so? Because we don't have too much equipment, and all of that tech thing. Stop motion doesn't require so much. You don't need to have a high-end PC to do stop motion. All you need to do is to have that creative ability. You need to be artistic, you need to be able to sculpt, because at some point we started making our puppets. We didn't have to use the objects we were using at first. I think we did that in our first 3 films. By the time we got to the 4th one, we made our puppets from scratch. So virtually everything you see was made, artistically like that. And so, for us, us having that opportunity, I think it will open the eyes of a lot of young people that probably maybe went to Yaba Tech. You understand? They can draw, they can paint. You understand? Stop motion is just the movement of what they are doing. You're already, just moving it. It requires a lot of patience, but patience is free. You understand? It's not something that you need 500k to buy patience. You understand? It's just something you really need to sort of discipline yourself to do, and somehow that's really essentially what we've done. You just need to be patient with it, bit by bit. And as we make each film is better than the previous one because our skills are improving.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, and then of course with more exposure, having the opportunities to go to different festivals, different studios. I've been to some of the biggest studios, worldwide for stop motion animation. It's just because it's a field that we are not too many. You understand? So quite a bit of opportunities, also in that light. And so it's something really exciting for us, and we actually look forward to pushing it even more.
Now, speaking about being unpopular, I'm talking about stop motion being unpopular here in Nigeria and Africa at large. How exactly did it feel when you started, seeing as you did not have anybody to show you the ropes in doing it?
Okay, well, in the beginning it didn't make sense. I think that was our first goal. It didn't make sense to people around us. It didn't make sense to, friends or whoever it is that saw that that's what we did. So in the beginning, it was kind of like, it almost felt embarrassing sometimes, when you're dealing with objects and just trying to move them around and people not understanding what exactly this is and all. Yes, so we experienced a lot of difficulty. You could imagine that we had zero support. But I think that seeing that, I knew that if we could make it make sense, we'd have an opportunity. I knew that I didn't have all the skills at the time when I started, so there was no way I could instantly prove that it was a viable means of making films. Not that animation is film, so people needed to see the film capacity in it, and it was going to take a while for us to be able to do that. From first film to second to third, I think when we won our first Best Animation Award,
Welcome back. This is the BDTV News Update. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Let's see what's making headlines this morning. We must bring our energy resources home to encourage domestic production, says Nupeng Sekjen. Dangote Cement hits 503 billion naira net profit in 2024. Emefiele's aide, others named in $6.2 million theft in CBN hiding in the United Kingdom. Supreme Court judgment, Fubara orders local government chairman to hand over Monday. The three world leaders back Zelensky after face-off with Trump. NBA fines Anthony Edwards $35,000 for on-court misconduct. Let's begin the news in Nigeria, where the Secretary General of the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, Nupeng, Comrade Afolabi Olawale, has urged the federal government to encourage more local production of PMS as against importation of refined products. Olawale revealed this during his appearance on Business Day television today, Monday, the 3rd of May. He urged the government to encourage local competition to bring the country's energy resources home. The Secretary General condemned cabal activities in the energy sector who prefer imported petroleum rather than patronizing domestic products. Moving on, Dangote Cement has revealed that it posted a net profit of 503.2 billion naira in the 2024 financial year, marking a 10% growth from the 455.6 billion naira recorded in 2023. The group posted a revenue of 3.58 trillion naira in 2024, 62% higher than the 2.21 trillion naira recorded in 2023. With a gross profit of 1.9 trillion naira, Dangote Cement's gross margin in 2024 was 54%, corresponding with the 54% gross margin recorded in 2023. The company also imported an operating profit of 1.15 trillion naira in 2024, representing a 57% increase from the 734.3 billion naira recorded in 2023. The cement manufacturer revealed it also faced significant financial pressures, with interest expenses amounting to 448.1 billion naira, while foreign exchange losses hit 249 billion naira. Still on, River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has ordered the heads of local government administration to immediately take over the administration of the 23 local government areas, pending the conduct of fresh elections by the River State Independent Electoral Commission. The governor directed the outgoing local government chairman to formally hand over to the heads of local government administration by Monday, the 3rd of March. Fubara gave this directive in a statewide broadcast in Government House, Port Harcourt, on Sunday evening in response to the Supreme Court judgment. And to end the local news, the Nigeria Labour Congress has revealed that it will not agree with the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NERC) to further increase electricity tariff by migrating other electricity consumers to Band A. The Congress has threatened to mobilize for a nationwide protest if the regulatory agency implements any fresh tariff increase in the power sector. It also warned telecommunication companies to not go back on the 35% tariff agreement reached on February 21 with the federal government through the joint 10-man committee. And on the foreign scene, 33 world leaders have declared support for Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky following a tense meeting between himself and United States President Donald Trump. The world leaders also condemned Russia's actions in Ukraine. Zelensky and Trump's meeting at the Oval Office on Friday with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, also in attendance, ended in a deadlock. Discussions at the meeting generated heated arguments as the two leaders clashed over a minerals deal that will grant the United States extensive access to Ukraine's rare earth resources in exchange for Washington's continued support for Kyiv in its fight against Russia. Also, the Immigration Directorate of Dominican Republic has revealed that the country deported over 276,000 people in 2024. It revealed that over 94,000 foreigners with irregular status were deported under a new operation aiming to remove up to 10,000 undocumented Haitians per week in the last 3 months of the year. According to reports, the authorities also deported 48,344 during the January-March quarter, 62,446 between April-June, and 71,414 from July to September. And now to sports, Minnesota Timberwolves guard Anthony Edwards has been fined $35,000 by the NBA over failure to leave by the courts promptly and throwing a ball into stands after being ejected from a game. The latest fine brings Edwards' season total fines to $320,000, accumulated from various offenses, including inappropriate language during media interviews and an obscene gesture during a game. It was also ejected on Thursday, 28th of February, during the Timberwolves loss to the Los Angeles Lakers after receiving a second technical foul for arguing with the referee. To end the news, Premier League clubs have been handed a boost in the race to sign Ademola Lookman, the reigning CAF African Footballer of the Year this summer. Lookman's contract with Atalanta will expire in 2026, and the Italian club is eager to cash in on the Nigerian forward. According to reports in Italy, Atalanta are expected to demand a transfer fee of at least €50 million for the Nigerian international. Arsenal and Liverpool, however, made initial inquiries about Lookman last summer, but never followed up with concrete offers. And these were the top headlines this morning. Stay tuned for more updates.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
You are watching Business Day Television.
Hello, this is Bode Oshosami on Global Business Insights on BDTV, where we bring ideas and discussions on the business headlines.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. Our premium offerings are further enriched with syndicated content from esteemed sources like the Financial Times, The Economist, and the Harvard Business Review. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications.
For being consistent in organizing these CEO forums for almost the last 14 years, I think this was a commendation, and I think something that will encourage them to continue.
From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, Business Day fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. Business Day is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, Business Day is your guide.
Hello there, you're welcome to this week's edition of the Business Day Exclusive. My name is Lolade Akinrele, Deputy Editor at Business Day. Today with me I have Egi Akpata, who's the Chairman of Skymark Partners and a Director at UCML Capital. We're going to be talking about a range of issues from the challenges in the Nigerian foreign exchange market, as well as expectations ahead of the Central Bank of Nigeria's MPC meeting, the first since Olayemi Cardoso was appointed governor last year. So the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria will be holding its first meeting in February. The first meeting since Yemi Cardoso became governor. The last time they held a meeting was in July, when they had to increase interest rates by 25 basis points to 18.75%. But since then, of course, inflation has surged and there's been considerable pressure on the naira. So I guess I want to ask you, what are your expectations, going into this meeting, especially in terms of interest rate direction?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that interest rates have to go up. Inflation has moved up very substantially since the last time MPC met. Inflation is almost 30%. The question becomes, what magnitude of increase of interest rates should we expect? I think it's unlikely that we're going to get 500 basis points, as some people think. I probably think 125 to 20, maybe it goes to 20 to 21% MPR. Unfortunately, the MPR rate is not as important as it sounds, and what is probably more important is the other administrative measures the central bank has been doing around treasury bills, OMO auctions, TRR. So what I would expect are the Q&A, definitely, of the MPC's specific information on how those administrative measures are going to be implemented, because they are more important to determining direction of market rates and also quenching inflation eventually. Yeah, precisely.
I agree with you that the MPR is not as important as it used to be, at least, because it's supposed to be the benchmark interest rates, but their rates, the yields on the 1 year T-bill, for instance, is even below 18.75%. And 18.75% should be the floor, should be the benchmark for all the rates. So I agree with you that the MPR is not as important as it ought to be. But then, sir, so yes, inflation has surged. There's been pressure on the naira, even though we've seen a lot of effort on the part of the central bank, to see how to stabilize the FX market and get some dollars in. We had to deal with the Afrexim Bank. We also heard that there will be plans to tap the Eurobond market this year if interest rates decline. But there's still considerable pressure on the naira. We know by how much it has moved this year alone. It's like 1,004 now in the black market. And in the official market as well, there's been some considerable pressure there. What do you think the CBN is not doing right, or what is CBN failing to do to restore investor confidence that would then lead to the type of significant dollar inflows that we're looking for that would help stabilize the naira?
Well, when you say stabilize the naira, it depends on which market you're looking at. If you're looking at the NAFEM market, the naira has been stable since the beginning of the year. Now, if you're looking at some other undocumented markets,
the more accessible markets.
Well, so it's that's the first thing. But I think in reality, in a world where the last treasury bill auction on January 10 had the 1 year discount at 8.3, and then your inflation is at 28 plus, you will have to have devaluation of your currency if you have that kind of differential between interest rates and inflation. So the first thing they're going to have to fix is that differential. It doesn't necessarily mean that the 1 year treasury bill rates should go above inflation, but it definitely has to be close to it. You can't be at 8-9% and then paying 28% inflation. And when we say treasury bill, we don't mean OMO, because OMO bills are restricted. Only foreign portfolio investors and banks can buy them. So they definitely have to move up the treasury bill rate, not MPR, the treasury bill rate. And the 1 year treasury bill definitely has to be yielding well over 20% for you to have any impact on currency movements, because there's a lot of demand for dollars that is for a store of value. People are storing money in storing their wealth in dollars and not naira, because the returns on naira are very poor relative to its declining purchasing power. So that's one thing they can fix instantly. Unfortunately, you move up the T-bill rate and you increase borrowing costs for the government, and that's a dilemma that they have to fix. But I would think that the solution on the short term, at least for a few months, maybe for 6 months, you need to have very high treasury bill rates to slow down the decline of naira's value.
So yes, you're right. I mean, the dilemma is really, so if you allow rates to go up, the impact it would have on government debt servicing costs, especially given that last year about 90% of the federal government's revenues went into servicing debt. But I did hear you say there that it might just be a short-term fix. Can you expatiate on that? You said something like, so even if rates go up, they might not need to stay that high for so long.
Well, I think, okay, first thing is not only the government that will be affected by very high interest rates. I mean, the entire, borrowing community, corporate world will be badly affected by a hike of treasury bill rates to that level. But you have an emergency situation, and when you have an emergency, you have to administer emergency measures, and those emergency measures, I would think, include very high rates for a certain length of time to suppress some of these forces around inflation and people storing money in dollars. When you get that under control, then you have the luxury of being able to slow down or reduce those rates. Also, there are just base effect things that kick in terms of the way inflation is calculated. But I think that you cannot have a 1 year T-bill rate sub 10 and inflation at almost 30% and expect your currency to be stable. There's no known formula that allows that to happen, and there's nothing unique about Nigeria. We're seeing the same thing here.
Yes, sir. So you made a point about the currency being stable in the official market. How is that even possible? I mean, we know that it's not like we're seeing. The fundamentals don't suggest that we should see that kind of stability in the NAFEM. What do you think is going on there? Why it hasn't moved as much as the rates in the parallel market, which is more accessible?
Well, again, you might want to ask those from people who actually run the NAFEM. I'm not familiar with the internal pricing dynamics of how things are reported. But what we know is that it's a very unique currency market. The level of movement, both intraday and closing prices day to day, are a bit wide for a currency. So it's a bit unusual for a currency to move that much. Particularly when there's limited supply, you would think the price will keep going up, but it refuses to move up. So there might be other mechanical things that I'm not aware of about how the market works that is making it behave the way it does.
Okay, so let's talk about the FX backlog now. I mean, that's also one main constraint, if you like, that foreign investors have said that, look, this is a big issue that is still restricting them from coming back into Nigeria, because they are wondering, how am I sure I can get my money out? I mean, there are still people who have their money trapped in Nigeria. I think the finance minister put the figure at around $5 billion during an interview at Davos. So how do you think we can go about clearing the backlog? What are there any creative? So I'll give you an example. Cocoa, for instance, Bola Onadele Cocoa, the CEO of FMDQ, made a suggestion that, look, rather than use the trickles of dollars you're getting from Afrexim, and the other loans, why don't you buy a 30-year US Treasury, zero coupon, for $5 billion, and then with a face value of $15 billion, and then you collateralize that, and then use that to borrow $15 billion today, and then you can easily clear the backlog and then meet demand over time. I'd like to get your thoughts on that and what you think the central bank can do to clear this backlog that's been lingering for many years now.
Okay, I think the first thing we need to clarify is what exactly is this backlog, because there's a huge difference between overdue FX forward, which are contracts between the buyer who has already given central bank naira and central bank that was supposed to deliver dollars at a certain rate at a certain point in time in the past. So those are contractual obligations that are very different from anybody that has naira and is trying to leave Nigeria.
Of course.
Right? So we need to separate those two first. I suspect that what the finance minister was talking about is the FX forwards that are contractual obligations between central bank and counterparties who have paid.
Yeah.
For everybody else, be it foreign or local, that has Naira in Nigeria and is trying to repatriate, they should do what everybody else does, which is, pay whatever the rate is to get out. Because if you have a problem holding Naira and you need to be in another currency, why would you wait around for 1-2 years and wait the currency keep devaluing? So it's not clear to me why some of those people are in that situation. Even in the NAFEM that does have a very wide trading range, when you look at intraday highs for a number of days, for a lot of days, the intraday highs are almost the same as the parallel market rates, suggesting that if you were desperate to get out of Nigeria, tell your bank to bid to whatever level is needed to get out. So when I hear people say that they're stuck in Nigeria and all that, I'm not sure what it means. Central Bank has not sold any dollars since September 22. So the question is, how has the economy survived for 4 months without a single sale from Central Bank? Obviously, these businesses are surviving from somewhere else. Well, those people who are in the backlog or who are so-called trapped should go to the same place and get their dollars and leave Nigeria.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Afrexim Bank loan now. I don't know if you've had time to look at the term sheet. What did you make of it? The structure of the deal?
Well, again, it's a private loan between an MPC and a consortium outside Nigeria. They've not published the signed documentation, so we don't know the exact final terms. But what is clear is that it's probably the most secure federal government paper you can get your hands on because of the collateral that is behind it. Your federal government bond does not have that kind of collateral. It doesn't have any collateral, Naira bond. Even your foreign currency bond is not really collateralized. So this is over-collateralized, so it's extremely safe, instrument, and the pricing is generous. So,
very generous.
But it's floating rate price. It's not fixed rates. So in 2 years' time, those rates could be substantially lower.
The 11% rate, you mean?
Yeah. Well, it's a margin over so far, and that margin is constant, but the benchmark is not constant. So it's not a fixed rate instrument, and the interest rate on that instrument could drop substantially over the next 5 years. But again, without having the final documentation, it's kind of hard to say anything specific about it. But if Nigerian government is ready to provide collateral to borrow, that kind of collateral, there are probably many people who will give the same or better terms than what they got.
Okay. So that's my final question now. It's what's your outlook for the economy in 2024, the Nigerian economy?
Well, I think of GDP growth, again, the GDP just seems to keep growing without the right environment in place. So we'll always expect to have, we will not have negative growth. I think that's clear. In terms of the interest rates, a lot depends on the philosophy of this new central bank team, because we've not heard from them directly. But I assume that their philosophy will be to make rates higher for now until they see inflation come down. So I expect rates to trend up at least for the next 6 months or so. In terms of the exchange rates, it's linked to the interest rates. If the interest rate doesn't get high enough, the exchange rates will just mathematically have to get weaker. There's no way around it. There's nothing unique about Nigeria and how these variables work. So you can't have a high inflation rate and a low interest rate. You will not have a stable currency. Your currency will depreciate.
Yeah.
So I think those ones are clear. Overall, anytime you have a change in government, it's normally a positive psychological boost for the market. You've seen the performance of Nigerian Stock Exchange in the past.
More than 22% year to date.
Yeah, year to date might be a bit tricky because there's some very, very, very large companies that have moved substantially. So that return is not widely distributed. But if you look at the past 7 months, it's pretty clear that virtually all stocks are substantially higher now than 7 months ago. And when you bear in mind that the stock market is a forward-looking barometer, then it means that there's probably optimism out there that this year will probably be a better year than the recent past.
So what do you make of Dangote Cement crossing the 10 trillion naira mark? The first company to do so.
Well, I think it's impressive. I think it's definitely a positive thing. But I'm sure if you check the US dollar equivalent, it's probably not as high as that's been in the past in US dollars. So it should give you an idea that despite the fact that the company's profits are substantially more than they were 8 years ago, but in real terms or US dollar terms, it probably is not at an all-time high. But it's definitely a positive signal for the rest of the markets.
That's an important point to keep in mind, really. All right, sir. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
That's it. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Very insightful. Don't forget to follow us across our various social media platforms at Business Day NG. I remain your host, Lolade Akimrele. Till next time.
You are watching Business Day Television.
Welcome back. This is Social Listening, and this is where we analyze top trends making the rounds on social media. My name is Elizabeth Musa, and joining me in the studio this morning is Stephen Onyekwelu, is our in-house analyst, and it's always a delight to have you in the studio with us.
Thank you, Lizzie.
How are you doing today?
Today I'm happy. It's a new month. The new months feel like new beginnings.
Yeah, happy new month. The month of March. They said this is the month. They said the month of March is when
you march.
You march. You know this
March to me, I don't know anyway.
Nigerian religious vibe. Month of March.
March into your promised land.
And then I said to myself, okay, so then what happens to the other months? You know, the other months that don't have any like a catchy name, like February. Do you say February into the month? Like it's only March. Once we get into March, the month of March is the month where you march into your breakthrough, you march into success. So, Mr. Stephen, this is the month where
I'm marching into my promised land.
Yes,
something like this.
Yes, you are marching into. So let's march and see what we have on social listening today. The first trend today is the arrest of Muslim faithfuls by Hisbah in Kano State for not observing the Ramadan fast on the first day, and that's also something that is synonymous with March, and it's quite interesting at the same time surprising. But let me give you a quick context to that. Operatives of the Hisbah board in Kano State have arrested some young men accused of not observing the Ramadan fast on the first day of the holy month. Now, the Deputy Commander General of the board, Mujahideen Abubakar, confirmed the arrest. I stated that the suspects were apprehended during routine protocols, paroles conducted by Hisbah officers in different parts of Kano metropolis. Also, the board arrested around 60 individuals for wearing indecent haircuts, which violate Islamic law and local cultural norms. Let's see what the comments are like on social media before I come to you, Mr. Stephen. But you know, it's very interesting when we talk about March. You know, I said it quite humorously, like March is always that month where everyone just gets really religious from the start of the month. Like, oh, I'm marching to breakthrough. This is the month where you march. You know one thing about March? March is the month where you march. And then also for brothers who are Muslims, also it's also the month where they always call it a big month because they also get to fast. I don't know about other traditional religions because we don't just have Christianity and Islam in Nigeria. We also have other traditional religions.
Catholics too are starting their fasts on Wednesday.
Absolutely. So it's for me, I think that March is always a very sort of like religious month. It will be interesting to see what maybe the IFA people doing match, So it will be interesting to see. But let's see. It will be good to know. Let's see what the comments are like on social media. Oroshiakose says, fasting is exceptional and important, but I don't think it should be imposed on anyone. Some people have medical issues. Can they cope? And that's a big question. You don't have to fast when you have health issues. Omokpe of Lagos says, what nonsense is this? Faith should be nurtured through education, guidance, and personal conviction, not through force or intimidation. True faith comes from the heart, not from fear of arrest. I completely agree with Omokpe. Charles Igwe says, I believe that fasting should be a personal choice made voluntarily by individuals according to their own beliefs and reasons. It should not be something that is forced or mandated by government authorities or religious organizations, as the decision to fast is deeply personal. Completely agree with that one. That's how people are reacting to that conversation on social media. But we need to take a very deliberate approach. When we're talking about issues like this, I always like to just err on the side of caution, because when we're speaking on religion,
you have to be careful.
You have to be careful. I'm not a pastor. I'm not an imam. I'm just Elizabeth. I'm a journalist. So, but let me hear your thoughts on this story.
So I think that so there will be two levels. There will be the personal views, and then there will also be the more the intellectual and the professional view. So on a very again, my personal views will be influenced by probably my religious beliefs, right? So I did some Islamic studies, and you know that the way Islam sees the worldview of Islam or a Muslim is different from that of a Christian. First, the Muslim Ummah is, so Islam is a worldview, and in Islam you don't have that separation between, well, a very thin line between state and, for instance, religion. Unlike in Christianity, where you have so you usually say you separate state from religion. So somewhere in the scriptures you hear, in the Bible you hear something like, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. So you're separating the state from religion, separating God. So there's something for the state or secular, then there's also the religious part. But in Islam, it isn't really like that. It's the Muslim Ummah is like a theocratic state, right? Where, you may have your personal choices, but you see, those are your personal choices. They are there, but because it's a theocratic state where it's God, God is responsible for everything.
Everything.
Right? And so that's why you have Ishba police people who are not fasting. And in some and I think in Islam in Nigeria, sometimes it scares me, because I've lived in other countries where predominantly Islam, but you don't have these disagreements. Mali is 98% Islam. So the other 2% you have maybe 1.5% Christian, and then the other percent will be traditional religion. But you don't have the kind of conflicts you find, religious-based conflicts that you find in Nigeria. So on a very personal note, I think faith is personal. But again, even in Islam, faith is also personal. But there's also the Muslim Ummah that you can rule out, and it depends on how it is applied in each state. I have nothing against their policing anybody to observe Ramadan. It could also be a way of keeping public order. So because if you have some people fasting, and then you have others who are like being really disruptive, you don't want that. Now, it's not supporting Hijba policing people, but like, again, it's different strokes for different folks, and you need to understand the Islamic theology, the Islamic politics, or politics in Islam, for you to appreciate the situation. With something like this happening in a place like Saudi Arabia, even one is the holy month. I think there's also some level of discipline that is imposed for public gatherings and public stuff, so that you don't distract those who, it's your personal choice, but it doesn't mean your personal choice should also not distract someone who is trying to fast, right? But anyway.
But again, the only thing I'll just add is you mentioned your personal choice should not distract someone that is trying to fast. But that's also something that Christians are in the Bible. It's like if you're fasting, don't wear it on your face. Like
That's
don't
correct.
be like, so you don't necessarily come out to announce that you're fasting. So you are not going, like, I'm not going to stop you from doing whatever it is you're doing because I'm fasting, like perhaps eating by my side. It's my prerogative to look the other way or keep it moving if I know I'm going to be distracted or affected by the food, the aroma coming out of your meal or whatever it is. So we're not, one thing that I know that the Christian religion does is just being very tolerant, and we often don't see it sometimes with other religions. But again, on the issue of fasting, I know that for Muslims it's more like a must.
Yes,
but
yes, it's different.
At the same time, when it comes to religion, again, I'm trying to be very you can tell I'm trying to be very
measured.
I don't want to say too much, but when people are talking about there's so many, and I think that Nigeria, it's a very religious country. Super religious. We have all sort of events, Hallelujah Challenge, like all sort of events every time. But then again, I just believe that people should have a personal, fellowship
should be personal.
with
the creator, whatever they call it.
Yeah, that's just what I'm going to end it. Let's see what we have again on the social listening segment. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says its operatives were responsible for the arrest of 11 suspected internet fraudsters in Niger State. Zagazola Makama, a counter-insurgency publication focused on the Lake Chad region, had reported that gunmen disguised as EFCC operatives abducted 10 persons from the White Hill Hotel on Shiroro Road in Chachanga local government area of Niger State. Makama said the abduction occurred around 4:58 a.m. on February 27 when the armed men reportedly stormed the hotel. The publication said the suspect disabled the hotel's CCTV cameras before entering guest rooms one by one, possibly taking away 10 people to an unknown destination. That is very tragic. And when we talk about some of the insecurity, it seems to be on a steady rise, especially in the north, like on a steady rise. I don't think we even spotlight it enough in the media. I've gotten lots of people reach out to me and say that what you media people are doing is not good. You guys are not talking about this, what's going on in Borno. You guys are not talking about what's going on in XYZ. And honestly, I really take responsibility as just a journalist, that maybe it's now seeming all too familiar. And then people are focused instead of on economic issues. Everyone is more focused around what the naira is saying, because people are very concerned about their pockets, self-preservation, self-aggrandizement, and all of that. But our brothers, our sisters, people are dying in the northern parts. Lots of insecurity is still on the rise there. We might be here and think that everything is, everything is level, everything is fine. But the earlier we realize that there's a lot of unsettlement in that side, the better for us, because it might look like it's, you know how when water is flowing, and then you think, oh, you can stand, like at the beach, you're standing and water is flowing. Before you know,
it continues to chop.
It continues, and then before you know, it has touched your leg. Exactly. Before, like, you think it's down there, and then it's up. So we need to be really, we need to spotlight these conversations every time. I can't say it enough. I think we're not doing enough. I think we must do more. But let's see the comments on this conversation on social media. This particular one. Trust Issue says Nigerians have called for an end to EFCC's legalities and mode of operation, but they refused. Now bandits are camouflaging and using their uniforms to operate and kidnap people. Eugene Chuk says, so it has now gotten to the point where Nigerians can no longer real EFCC from criminals. both are now behaving like identical twins. For the gunmen to disguise like EFCC and their victims believe them to be EFCC, it tells one thing about the real EFCC. I guess you understand what that person is trying to say. Let's see if we have more reaction. Lewis563 says, why will they not behave as EFCC? When you act like a criminal agency, criminals will emulate you and impersonate you because both of you are colleagues. The difference, you have federal government supporting you to continue the criminality when you can't obey the law as law enforcement agencies. That's as much comment as we can take on that one. But you know, we've been talking about these conversations about the EFCC and some of their operation modalities. The other day we went out on the street to talk about EFCC night raids and all of that. Well, now kidnappers are now disguising as EFCC.
Yeah,
that says a lot.
Worrisome. It's worrisome. Now the laws, the act setting up the EFCC, we may need to look at that. So sometimes, because sometimes also you need to take criminals by surprise. You know, there's that surprise element that you need to apply. It's like when you want to arrest. Okay, let me not say criminals. Let me more like suspects.
Yeah.
So when you want to arrest a suspect and you have ample evidence, government also has access to some amount of information that individuals don't. So you're acting on some form of intelligence, and you don't want to notify the people that, oh, we are coming to pick you up, right? I mean, they'll all run away, they scamper away, right? So you want to use that element of surprise. Now, to the nature of this surprise is something that we need to look into. So the level of brutality that we see sometimes, or so where is the illegality? But you can't tell a suspect that you're coming to arrest them, especially if they are somewhere, let's say in a hotel. You won't. If they know you're coming.
Yeah, but you need to. I'm not a lawyer, but I know that you do need to get an arrest warrant. There is a procedure to this, so you have to at least tender an arrest warrant, if at all.
No, that's why I refer to the act establishing EFCC. I don't know where the kind of powers they have, and what kind of surprise arrest they can spring on people. Okay, so that's why I'm happy that you also mentioned that you're not a lawyer. I'm not too, and I didn't look at the act before coming on this show, but again, you wouldn't want to tell a suspect of a certain crime or suspected crime that, oh, I'm coming to pick you up. No, they won't be there by the time you get there, right? And then it's then unfortunate that we then have criminal elements imitating their mode of operation and then breaking into hotels. Because when they come like this, you don't know, is it EFCC, is it not EFCC? Next thing you're dispossessed. You know, it's worrisome.
Dispossessed of your possessions.
Yeah, I don't want to add that part. and talking about the general insecurity in the north and even in the country, you know, it's worrisome. Niger is more like north central, and then there's Borno, and you know that they are actually our food basket to some extent. You're right. So it affects the food production. Farmers can't go to the farm. I can't say this enough. They can't go to the Borno is known for fish, this smoked fish. Yeah.
Really?
Yes. So there's a lot of fish that come from Borno, but you may not be seeing much of it now. And of course, as the supply reduces, that's how prices go up. You know, so the northern part, north central, and then depending on what part of the north now. Jigawa is one of the northeast or northwest, but they supply us the grains, the cereals, and when this insecurity there's food shortage, we can't talk about food sufficiency and food sovereignty. And the south is supplied by the north in terms of cereals and grains, and so it's a worrisome thing, the insecurity in the north.
I do hope that something is done about this insecurity situation, because we've been on this conversation for a while now.
For a while,
it's now become, what do they call it? It's now like
a broken, what is a broken record?
Now
you know that expression.
Become all too familiar.
Yes.
And just like something, usually there are certain things, that there's certain phenomenon that you mention, and it shakes you.
Yes.
Because it's very big, it's very dangerous, it's very deep. It shakes you. But imagine phenomenon like that now becoming normalized, and then everyone is just, when you talk about insecurity, everyone just keeps moving. Have you noticed, if you're having social conversation and you mention this, everyone keeps moving. Back in the day, when it's mentioned, it triggers some sort of alarm.
True.
Like you pay attention because you're worried, you're concerned. But now it's become all too familiar. I just hope that, honestly, I just hope something can be done about the situation pretty soon. We've been hoping for a long time.
We've been hoping for 2 ways, and hope is not strategy. You know, Delegiwa said something many years ago. You know, Delegiwa, that great journalist. He said that Nigerians have been shocked to the level of unshockability. You know, same thing you said. So it's become like normal thing. Oh, insecurity in the north. I mean, we've been hearing about this thing. So you develop some kind of thick skin. You don't care anymore.
Now looks so normalized, and that's why you see so many times on social media, people will say Nigeria should be on Netflix, because the kind of things that happen in Nigeria, you think it's something out of a movie or a fairy tale. It seems unbelievable, but it's so normalized here. From insecurity to just some very unusual, bizarre situations. But then we just keep moving.
Snake swallowing money sometimes.
Yes, it's ridiculous. Thank you very much, Mr. Steven. It's always a delight speaking to you on the social listening segment. We'll see you again on Wednesday, is it?
Okay, let's make it a date.
That's as much as we can take here on the social listening segment. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Keep watching BDTV.
Hello, this is Bodi Oshosami on Global Business Insights on BDTV, where we bring ideas and discussions on the business headlines.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium Business Day. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
Kemi Michael here, your Yoruba named Akwa Ibom girl, welcoming you to Go Local. We took a trip down to the town of Kenta in the heart of Abeokuta, where we met with the Otun Iyaloja of Kenta Kampala Market and a few traders.
Chief Mrs. Olukemi Somuyiwa Odulami. I am the Otun Iyaloja of Kenta Adire Kampala Market.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Kaka Aisha Remilekun.
Adire was once, and still is, a closely guarded family secret in Egbaland. Parents carefully taught the techniques to their daughters, and the wives to their sons. This tradition was so sacred that outsiders were initially barred from participating, as Adire production echoed the whispers of a family's heritage.
Yes, my grandmom did it, my mom did it, and now to me. And by the grace of God, my children are still on it also.
They're learning.
They've learned it. They are growing up. They've married, and they are doing this business.
Okay.
And they are educated too.
Yes.
At least I have PhD holder among them. I have BSc among them. But I made this business compulsory for them. They have passion for it because it's something they grow up with.
It's a family thing. So my mom do, my grandmom, I was born into it. So after schooling, the challenges in the economy, have to come back into the business.
Different countries go through challenges. Our motherland, Nigeria, sure has her fair share of those. In these trying times, the adire makers and producers are also affected by several challenges.
The challenges that we are facing presently is the material we are using. You see, they are not producing the material, the cloth in Nigeria now. Most of the industries that produce it, like Gaspia Textile, United Textile, Arewa Textile, they are fold up. So the white material that we are using now, the brocade, is from China. And you see the dollar is moving up. So it's made the price to cost now. Before, when they are producing it in Nigeria, we do buy it like 100,000 per bill. Even it was 55 before. It's jumped to 100,000. Now it's 600,000 per bill. So it's very expensive presently. Then secondly, the dye that we are using is not made in Nigeria. It's an imported also. So the price has risen up. Even the common candle that we are using is now expensive. It's not made in Nigeria. They are imported. We call it paraffin wax. So with the price now that moves up, it affects the production. You see, when we produce it finish, the price will rise up. There are some we are selling before 880, 880. It's now like 15,000, 20,000. So those are the problems we face now.
Now, this is a call to action for the government to go ahead and invest in infrastructure, because quite sure these companies that produce the white cloth used for adire making would not fold up if the right infrastructures were put in place. Now, this is your sign to go local, buy local, and stay global. Visit any shop, or you can take that trip down to Abeokuta and shop for some adire products. To be part of this podcast, send an email to customercare@businessday.ng with the title Go Local Podcast, and we will be there to answer all your questions. Don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms at BusinessDayNG.
just got Nigeria February's Stanbic IBTC S&P Purchasing Managers Index data out this morning. Nigeria's headline PMI rose to 53.7 in February from 52.0 in January, signaling a solid monthly improvement in business conditions, also the fastest growth in over a year. The health of the private sector has now strengthened in 3 consecutive months, and according to the head of equity research at Stanbic IBTC, the economy is expected to grow by 3.5% year-on-year in real terms in 2025, with the Q1 growth print forecasted to settle at 3.55% year-on-year. Still in Nigeria, Dangote Cement posted a net profit of 503.2 billion naira in the 2024 financial year, marking 10% growth from the 455.6 billion naira recorded in 2023. Dangote Cement also exported about 128.3 billion naira worth of cement in the period. Hello, welcome to Global Business Insights, where we look deeper at the main business stories. Today in this episode, we focus on technology news and a slew of PMI data, giving us a glimpse at the latest with economic activity all over the world. But first, some updates in the technology sector, as that sector rides an ongoing, if not turbulent, wave of disruptive digital revolution. Microsoft is shutting down Skype. That will be on May 5. The disruptor of the landline industry finally will be disrupted after over 2 decades, and also after struggling to cope with stronger products like Zoom and Slack. In 2011, Microsoft bought Skype for $8.5 billion and now is moving its customers to Teams, that is its own workplace collaboration product. After its launch in 2003, Skype became popular, leading eBay to buy it in 2005 for $2.6 billion. Its popularity was helped by a pandemic bounce, but the shift in working styles also boosted new rivals like Zoom, Google Meet, Cisco WebEx, and more competition came also from Apple's FaceTime and Meta's WhatsApp. eBay sold its 65% stake in Skype for $1.9 billion in 2009 before Microsoft bought it in 2011. Microsoft, rather than take it to another level, eventually decided to develop its own teams with similar services. Skype will be remembered for unlocking the huge potential demand for free voice calls that was then leveraging mainstreaming of broadband. Now to the UK, where the tension between regulators and innovators could be taking a different turn. iCloud users in the UK will not have access to advanced data protection, a key data security feature for iCloud storage. This optional end-to-end encryption feature helps to ensure that only users can access their own personal data, such as photos and messages. End-to-end encryption protects sensitive data such as passwords stored in users' iCloud keychain, and the data is basically scrambled when stored on Apple servers, and only the user who holds the account can see it unscrambled. This implies that no one with access to Apple's servers, like hackers or even the company itself, could read users' sensitive data. Apple did this to avoid complying with the request from the British government for a technical backdoor to access user data. This request by the government, served by the Home Office under the Investigatory Powers Act, IPA, is now compelling firms to provide information to law enforcement agencies and now demanding access to encrypted data stored by Apple users worldwide in its cloud service. The UK government move also got a reaction from Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of US National Intelligence, who says she was not informed in advance about the UK government's demand to be granted access to Apple customers' encrypted data from anywhere in the world. Now to Amazon, which became the third tech giant in recent months to announce a breakthrough in quantum computing, a new technology promising vastly more robust processing power. Amazon unveiled Ocelot, a prototype chip built on cat qubit technology. According to Oscar Painter, Amazon Web Services Center for Quantum Computing at the California Institute of Technology, where the work was carried out, he said this breakthrough could bring this powerful capability to users within a decade, which is much earlier than initially thought. Quantum computers will be able to solve problems even the most powerful modern computers cannot, which could yield to new medicines and breakthrough in research. The challenge today is its propensity for errors. Qubits are the basic elements of quantum computers, like bits in the computers we use today. Cat qubits is an advancement that is proposed as one way of engineering error resistance into the design of the qubits that quantum computers use. Still on Amazon, with the launch of Alexa Plus last week, the voice assistant has been 100% re-architected. The new Alexa is conversational, proactive, capable of reason and inference, and can learn from the context, indeed far more useful than its predecessor, which will still be around. At the launch event, Amazon's head of devices and services, Panos Panay, said Alexa Plus can book a restaurant, text the babysitter, create a travel itinerary, read your study guide, and test you on the answers. Remember your favorite movies and food, as well as find your smart devices and take action. And it comes with the new Alexa app. Analysts are also given this upgrade very positive reviews. Still more technology news, this time from Singapore, where the biggest bank, DBS, says it expects to cut about 4,000 roles over the next 3 years as artificial intelligence is deployed. The cuts, which will be achieved by natural attrition, will not affect, at least for now, permanent staff. That is, it affects only contract and temporary staff. The bank's outgoing chief executive, Piyush Gupta, also said it expected to create around 1,000 new AI-related jobs. DBS becomes one of the first major banks to openly admit details on how AI use will affect its operations, and I expect more to follow. And now this time on cybercrime. Last week, hackers believed to be from North Korea's notorious Lazarus Group stole $1.46 billion of cryptocurrency from Bybit, a crypto trading platform. The figures seem to get larger and larger. Bybit is now offering cash rewards to anyone who spots and is able to prevent them from cashing out the loot. The bounty scheme gives 5% of the sum identified to individuals who successfully persuade a company that has control of the funds to freeze the money, and also awarding 5% as a commission to the companies that take action to expose the theft. In the crypto space, you have a lot of talented blockchain investigators who are now financially motivated to track theft, using their skills in following illicit transactions and bringing criminals to book. The scale of the theft heightens the risk associated with an already volatile industry and makes crypto-related cybersecurity even more critical. Since there are no regulators involved in crypto transactions, victims to criminal behavior do not have an obvious body to turn to for help. All this as analysts call for better regulation and agreement on some form of independent policing of these crypto-based transactions. Major technology investor SoftBank Group CEO Masayoshi Son says it plans to borrow $16 billion to invest in AI and another $8 billion in early 2026. It was reported in January that SoftBank is in talks to invest up to $25 billion in ChatGPT owner OpenAI as the Japanese conglomerate continues to expand into the sector. And our last tech story is about Facebook. And European human rights body has ruled that Facebook's algorithm shows gender bias when promoting job advertisements. The Netherlands Institute for Human Rights said in a February 18 decision that Facebook's algorithm reinforced gender stereotypes by mainly showing typically female professions to female Facebook users in the Netherlands, and that Meta should have monitored and adjusted its algorithm to prevent this. To summarize, the tension between technology innovators and regulators and privacy and customer rights, all these continue to play out as roles are being redefined and control lapses unveil huge gaps and risks that are being underplayed. The pace of innovation is getting faster. Old, irredeemable gadgets and software are also being phased out, I would say, faster, while new ones are being reinvented to be even better. And some of the newer technologies, which we thought are 20 or 30 years away, may be ready for customers within the next decade. We also are seeing much more investment targeting the technologies space. In short, get ready for a vastly different technology-dominated world. Welcome back. China's Caixin Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index rose more than expected to 50.8 in February from January's 50.1. The latest data also shows the fastest rises in output and new orders for 3 months. Also just out, the Euro area's manufacturing sector remained in contraction. In February, PMI came in at 47.6, but still a 2-year high, signaling that the industrial downturn was at its least severe since early 2023. Germany manufacturing PMI also at 46.5, still in contraction, but at a 25-month high as the downturn shows further signs of easing. CFG Advisory CEO Adetileo Adebajo, commenting on last week's Nigeria GDP data, said there is an output gap problem in an economy still falling short of its productivity and growth potential, adding that the government needs to optimize equity in its capital structure by selling assets in an effort to reduce its debt profile and achieve investment-grade credit ratings. New industrial policies also needed to develop local supply chains, with Nigeria farmers also expanding agricultural productivity and creating employment along that value chain. The manufacturing sector also can be incentivized to do much better. The year 2024 ended with an overall annual GDP growth rate of 3.4% from 2.74% reported in 2023, less than government's target of 6% GDP growth, and with population growing at about 3%, GDP per capita remains in the low quartile amongst its regional peers and is evidence of an economy still struggling with stagflation. Asia-Pacific markets mostly higher as investors awaited clarity on U.S. plans to impose tariffs this week on key trading partners. Ukraine's Zelensky said on Sunday he believed he could salvage his relationship with the U.S., but the talks needed to continue behind closed doors. This was after we saw more like a duel instead of signing of a mineral deal at the Oval Office on Friday. Britain and France say they will lead an attempt to end the war that would include an initial 1-month truce with Russia, covering air, sea, and infrastructure. Still too early to see how this will develop. Meanwhile, President Trump announced the names of 5 digital assets he expects to include in a new U.S. strategic reserve of cryptocurrencies on Sunday, spiking up the value of each. Well, that's all we can take on this episode of Global Business Insights. Thanks for watching. This is Bode Oshosami. Bye-bye.
You are watching Business Day Television.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Ogunjobi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I go look at the cost of petrol. We get away from Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased.
Nothing like savings again, no. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, looking for my hand, my picking go spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs.
Hello there, you're welcome to this week's edition of the Business Day Exclusive. My name is Lolade Akim-Relay, Deputy Editor at Business Day. Today with me, I have Egi Akpata, who's the Chairman of Skymark Partners and a Director at UCML Capital. We're going to be talking about a range of issues from the challenges in the Nigerian foreign exchange market, as well as expectations ahead of the Central Bank of Nigeria's MPC meeting, the first since Olayemi Cardoso was appointed governor last year. So the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria will be holding its first meeting in February. The first meeting since Yemi Cardoso became governor. The last time they held a meeting was in July, when they had to increase interest rates by 25 basis points to 18.75%. But since then, of course, inflation has surged and there's been considerable pressure on the naira. So I guess I want to ask you, what are your expectations, going into this meeting, especially in terms of interest rates direction?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that interest rates have to go up. Inflation has moved up very substantially since the last time MPC met. Inflation is almost 30%. The question becomes, what magnitude of increase of interest rates should we expect? I think it's unlikely that we're going to get 500 basis points, as some people think. I probably think 125 to 20, maybe it goes to 20 to 21% NPR. Unfortunately, the NPR rate is not as important as it sounds, and what is probably more important is the other administrative measures the central bank has been doing around treasury bills, OMO auctions, TRR. So what I would expect are the Q&A, definitely, of the MPC's specific information on how those administrative measures are going to be implemented, because they are more important to determining direction of market rates and also quenching inflation eventually.
Yeah, precisely. I agree with you that the MPR is not as important as it used to be, at least, because it's supposed to be the benchmark interest rates, but their rates, the yields on the 1-year T-bill, for instance, is even below 18.75%. And 18.75% should be the floor, should be the benchmark for all the rates. So I agree with you that the MPR is not as important as it ought to be. But then, sir, so yes, inflation has surged. There's been pressure on the naira, even though we've seen a lot of effort on the part of the central bank, to see how to stabilize the FX market and get some dollars in. We had to deal with the Afrexim Bank. We also heard that there will be plans to tap the Eurobond market this year if interest rates decline. But there's still considerable pressure on the naira. We know by how much it has moved this year alone. It's like 1,004 now in the black market. And in the official market as well, there's been some considerable pressure there. What do you think the CBN is not doing right, or what is CBN failing to do to restore investor confidence that would then lead to the type of significant dollar inflows that we're looking for that would help stabilize the naira?
Well, when you say stabilize the naira, it depends on which market you're looking at. If you're looking at the NAFEM market, the naira has been stable since the beginning of the year. Now, if you're looking at some other undocumented markets,
the more accessible markets.
Well, so it's that's first thing. But I think in reality, in a world where the last Treasury bill auction on January 10 and the 1 year discount at 8.3, and then your inflation is at, 28 plus, you will have to have devaluation of your currency if you have that kind of differential between interest rates and inflation. So the first thing they're going to have to fix is that differential. It doesn't necessarily mean that the 1 year Treasury bill rates should go above inflation, but it definitely has to be close to it. You can't be at 8-9% and then paying 28% inflation. And when we say Treasury bill, we don't mean OMO, because OMO bills are restricted. Only foreign portfolio investors and banks can buy them. So they definitely have to move up the Treasury bill rate, not MPR, the Treasury bill rate. And the 1 year Treasury bill definitely has to be yielding well over 20% for you to have any impact on currency movements, because there's a lot of demand for dollars that is for a store of value. People are storing money in storing their wealth in dollars and not naira, because the returns on naira are very poor relative to its declining purchasing power. So that's one thing they can fix instantly. Unfortunately, you move up the T-bill rate and you increase borrowing costs for the government, and that's a dilemma that they have to fix. But I think that the solution on the short term, at least for a few months, maybe for 6 months, you need to have very high Treasury bill rates to slow down the decline of naira's value.
So yes, you're right. I mean, the dilemma is really, so if you allow rates to go up, the impact it would have on government's debt servicing costs, especially given that last year about 90% of the federal government's revenues went into servicing debt. But I did hear you say there that it might just be a short-term fix. Can you expatiate on that? You said something like, so even if rates go up, they might not need to stay that high for so long.
Well, I think, okay, first thing is not only the government that will be affected by very high interest rates. I mean, the entire, borrowing community, corporate world will be badly affected by a hike of Treasury bill rates to that level. But you have an emergency situation, and when you have an emergency, you have to administer emergency measures, and those emergency measures, I think, include very high rates for a certain length of time to suppress some of these forces around inflation and people storing money in dollars. When you get that under control, then you have the luxury of being able to slow down or reduce those rates. Also, there are just base effect things that kick in terms of the way inflation is calculated. But I think that you cannot have a 1 year T-bill rate sub 10 and inflation at almost 30% and expect your currency to be stable. There's no known formula that allows that to happen, and there's nothing unique about Nigeria. We're seeing the same thing here.
Yes, sir. So you made a point about the currency being stable in the official market. How is that even possible? I mean, given we know that it's not like we're seeing. The fundamentals don't suggest that we should see that kind of stability in the NAFEM. What do you think is going on there? Why it hasn't moved as much as the rate in the parallel market, which is more accessible?
Well, again, you might want to ask those from people who actually run the NAFEM. I'm not familiar with the internal pricing dynamics of how things are reported. But what we know is that it's a very unique currency market. The level of movement, both intraday and closing prices day to day, are a bit wide for a currency. So it's a bit unusual for a currency to move that much, particularly when there's limited supply. You would think that price will keep going up, but it refuses to move up. So there might be other mechanical things that I'm not aware of about how the market works that is making it behave the way it does.
Okay, so let's talk about the FX backlog now. I mean, that's also one main constraint, if you like, that foreign investors have said that, look, this is a big issue that is still restricting them from coming back into Nigeria, because they are wondering, how am I sure I can get my money out? I mean, so there are still people who have their money trapped in Nigeria. I think the finance minister put the figure at around $5 billion during an interview at Davos. So how do you think we can go about clearing the backlog? What are there any creative? So I'll give you an example. Cocoa, for instance, Bola Onadele Cocoa, the CEO of FMDQ, made a suggestion that, look, rather than use the trickles of dollars you're getting from Afrexim, the likes, and the other loans, why don't you buy a 30-year US Treasury, zero coupon, for $5 billion, and then with a face value of $15 billion, and then you collateralize that, and then use that to borrow $15 billion today, and then you can easily clear the backlog and then meet demand over time. I'd like to get your thoughts on that and what you think the central bank can do to clear this backlog that's been lingering for many years now.
Okay, I think the first thing we need to clarify is what exactly is this backlog, because there's a huge difference between, overdue FX forward, which are contracts between the buyer who has already given central bank naira and central bank that was supposed to deliver dollars at a certain rate at a certain point in time in the past. So those are contractual obligations that are very different from anybody that has naira and is trying to leave Nigeria.
Of course.
Right? So we need to separate those two first. I suspect that what the finance minister was talking about is the FX forwards that are contractual obligations between central bank and counterparties who have paid. For everybody else, be it foreign or local, that has naira in Nigeria and is trying to repatriate, they should do what everybody else does. Which is pay whatever the rate is to get out. Because if you have a problem holding naira and you need to be in another currency, why would you wait around for 1-2 years and let the currency keep devaluing? So it's not clear to me why some of those people are in that situation. Even in the NAFEM that does have a very wide trading range, when you look at intraday highs for a number of days, for a lot of days, the intraday highs are almost the same as the parallel market rate, suggesting that if you were desperate to get out of Nigeria, tell your bank to bid to whatever level is needed to get out. So when I hear people say that they're stuck in Nigeria and all that, I'm not sure what it means. Central bank has not sold any dollars since September 22. So the question is, how has the economy survived for 4 months without a single sale from central bank? Obviously, these businesses are surviving from somewhere else. Well, those people who are in the backlog or who are so-called trapped should go to the same place and get their dollars and leave Nigeria.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the Afrexim Bank loan now. I don't know if you've had time to look at the term sheet. What did you make of it? The structure of the deal?
Well, again, it's a private loan between an MPC and a consortium outside Nigeria. They've not published the signed documentation, so we don't know the exact final terms. But what is clear is that it's probably the most secure federal government paper you can get your hands on because of the collateral that is behind it. Your federal government bond does not have that kind of collateral. It doesn't have any collateral, naira bond. Even your foreign currency bond is not really collateralized. So this is over-collateralized, so it's extremely safe, instrument, and the pricing is generous. So,
very generous.
But it's floating rate price. It's not fixed rates. So in 2 years' time, those rates could be substantially lower.
The 11% rate you mean?
Yeah. Well, it's a margin over SOFR, and that margin is constant, but the benchmark is not constant. So it's not a fixed rate instrument, and the interest rate on that instrument could drop substantially over the next 5 years. But again, without having the final documentation, it's kind of hard to say anything specific about it. But if Nigerian government is ready to provide collateral to borrow, that kind of collateral, there are probably many people who will give the same or better terms than what they got.
Okay. So that's my final question now. It's what's your outlook for the economy in 2024, the Nigerian economy?
Well, in terms of GDP growth, again, the GDP just seems to keep growing without the right environment in place. So we'll always expect to we will not have negative growth. I think that's clear. In terms of the interest rates, a lot depends on the philosophy of this new central bank team, because we've not heard from them directly. But I assume that their philosophy will be to make rates higher for now until they see inflation come down. So I expect rates to trend up at least for the next 6 months or so. In terms of the exchange rates, it's linked to the interest rates. If the interest rate doesn't get high enough, the exchange rates will just mathematically have to get weaker. There's no way around it. There's nothing unique about Nigeria and how these variables work. So you can't have a high inflation rate and a low interest rate. You will not have a stable currency. Your currency will depreciate. So I think those ones are clear. Overall, anytime you have a change in government, it's normally a positive psychological boost for the market. You've seen the performance of Nigerian Stock Exchange in the past.
More than 22% year to date.
Yeah, year to date might be a bit tricky because there's some very, very, very large companies that have moved substantially. So that return is not widely distributed. But if you look at the past 7 months, it's pretty clear that virtually all stocks are substantially higher now than 7 months ago. And when you bear in mind that the stock market is a forward-looking barometer, then it means that there's probably optimism out there that this year will probably be a better year than the recent past.
So what do you make of Dangote Cement crossing the 10 trillion naira mark? The first company to do so.
Well, I think it's impressive. I think it's definitely a positive thing. But I'm sure if you check the US dollar equivalent, it's probably not as high as that's been in the past in US dollars. So it should give you an idea that despite the fact that the company's profits are substantially more than they were, 8 years ago, but in real terms or US dollar terms, it probably is not at an all-time high. But it's definitely a positive signal for the rest of the markets.
That's an important point to keep in mind, really. All right, sir, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That's it. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Very insightful. Don't forget to follow us across our various social media platforms at BusinessDay NG. I remain your host, Lolade Akimrele. Till next time.
Hello and welcome to the big story here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. This is where we discuss key issues shaping our nation and our economy. My name is Elizabeth Musa, and today we are focused on the energy sector. We're exploring what lower petrol prices mean in the regulated Nigeria's markets, and we're looking at the impact on the economy and Nigeria at large. The full deregulation of the downstream oil sector has aided the establishment of some private refineries in the country, including the 650,000 naira barrel per day Dangote refinery, the largest in Africa. In addition to this, the recent announcement by the NNPCL that the federal government-owned Port Harcourt and Warri refineries have resumed production has resulted in increased capacity for local refining of petroleum products, even as importation of the product is also continuing. The development has engendered price competition between fuel importers and local refineries, bringing relief to consumers. Just last week, the Dangote refinery again slashed the retail price of petrol to 860 naira per litre in Lagos. The latest price reduction was the second time in February that the Dangote refinery will cut its ex-depot price from 890 naira to 825 naira per litre. This development has, however, elicited complaints from fuel importers who fear that the recurring price slash by the Dangote refinery poses a threat, as they will have to struggle to play profitably in the deregulated market. But to help us understand this very much better, we are joined in the studio by our senior energy correspondent here at Business Day, Dipo Oladende, as well as Comrade Olawale Afolabi, who is joining us virtually, is the General Secretary of NUPENG, and he'll be joining us to dissect this conversation and unpack what it means for us. Welcome to the studio.
Yeah, good morning. It's nice seeing you again.
So before we start, what does it really mean when we say a deregulated market, especially in the energy sector? Let me start with you, Dipo.
Okay, so good morning everyone, and good to be here once again. So a deregulated market is a market where the forces of demand and supply are allowed to dictate the price of whatever goods and services that are being offered in the market. And so in our petroleum markets, which is the main point of discussion today, Nigeria, when President Bola Tinubu came on board, he said fuel subsidy is over, and then we are moving, and so gradually we transited into a deregulated market, and that's where we are today. So what we are witnessing is the Dangote refinery is also on board as well, which is a major development when it comes to having a fully deregulated market. And so we've seen prices are beginning to go down, and compared to where we're coming from before. So sometimes before we were doing petrol prices of about 1,002, 1,003, and now we are in the 890 region. So I wouldn't say we are not. There are more to benefit from a fully deregulated market. There's more to benefit than just lower petrol prices. We are talking about increasing economic activities in the downstream sectors. We are talking about employment. We are talking about job creation. We are talking about adding more value to Nigeria's GDP. So if you check last year, prior before now, oil and gas contributions to Nigeria's oil and gas sector is basically less than a single digit. So we do 8%, we do 7%, 6%. But now that we are having a fully optimal midstream level, which is the value chain of Nigeria's oil and gas sector, then we'll start seeing more contribution to Nigeria's GDP, and we'll start to see growth. We'll start to see increase in economic activities, which would, of course, have multiplier effect on everyone.
Dipo, thank you for making us understand what it really means when we say a deregulated market. But if we have Comrade Afolabi there, I'll just pose this question to you. So this seems to be an interesting time in Nigeria, especially for consumers of petroleum products. For you, from your own perspective, is this what we've been waiting for?
Yeah, good morning to you over there, and good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
Actually, this is what we've been clamoring for. That we should have food regulation where markets will be allowed freely to determine the prices. But we need to be mindful of our celebration so that we don't celebrate too early. The current price slashing and reduction is a reflection of the capacity of the value of our naira. That's one. Two, it's also a reflection of the competition among the major players. Sometimes it is good, sometimes it is dangerous, and we don't want a situation where we have monopoly because some people are playing the other. But by and large, I want to commend Dangote Refinery for coming on board. It has really helped our economy. It will also help in the very long run. And those who are complaining, the importers that are complaining, I wonder why they can't use the money they are using to import, pull together and build refinery as well. And rather than allowing our foreign reserve to be on the flights, I think we should encourage us to have domestic production. I commend NNPC as well for Port Harcourt and Warri refineries resuming operations. And I also want to commend some other Nigerians, private individuals. We have Edo Refinery. They also told us they are going to Warri Cocoa area to open another big one. We also commend Watersmith, Niger Delta Refinery. These are private refineries that are coming on board. And in the long run, even now, the impact of the reduction on the economy will be massive. It's going to have a wide range of effect on virtually everybody, including those who are selling tomatoes, including those who are selling ice block, because energy is the main source of any kind of production. So market women, even our members, are going to also, they are benefiting already, because with the full regulation and when the price of PMS and other products went up, there was also very high reduction in the haulaging, in the marketing, in the distribution. But with the reduction, many people will be able to come back into the business. If you observe very well, when the price went up, many petrol stations closed down. You drive to many, you won't find them, except the big players. And we hope that the price will go down further. The value of Naira will pick up so that, yeah, many people will come back into the system. There will be employment, and small and medium scale businesses will also come back, because as we know, energy drives every economy. So it's a good thing where we're having.
Comrade Afolabi, I'm very curious to know, from your standpoint as the General Secretary of the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Gas Workers, what are some of the factors driving these price reductions, given the various local and international variables? Are we likely to see further reductions or another increment that will make the relief a short-lived one?
Yeah, number one is the value of our Naira. Naira to dollar parity, you will realize that what you are buying at when dollar was 1,900, 1,800. Now, whatever you are buying then, and compared to when dollar is now hovering between 1,400 and 1,500, there will be a major difference. And it's supposed to be, except some unscrupulous business people. So we're supposed to have reduction in this price of cement, in the prices of all our goods. That's number one. So when the value of Naira, our Naira, when the value goes up, definitely the purchasing power of Naira will also go up. And that is reflected there. The other one is about competition. And when Dangote has 650,000 barrel to be produced and to store, there is also tendency for him to produce and have more than enough. So it's a factor of supply and demand. He cannot keep storing up, having higher prices, because his profit also comes from turnover. So that's number 2. Number 3 is that there is also competition. Everybody's coming to the market, and whether confirmed or unconfirmed, Dangote has also been shouting about some cabals coming together to frustrate his business. That despite the fact that he has enough to supply to this country, some marketers are still hell-bent on importation. So in that kind of scenario, they are forcing him, he is forcing them. It's a good thing for Nigerians. But my own concern, or our own collective concern, is that rather than base this thing on importation, which is taking our employment away, taking our at-end foreign reserves away, let us have local production. Let's support local production. Government should encourage local production. And so these are 3 factors that are driving it.
All right. Dikpo, you are someone, you've been reporting this story, so you clearly understand the client side, like that's producer side and the consumer side. So for you, can you tell us what these lower prices mean for the economy and the Nigerian society? I mean, from the feedback that you get from when you're writing your stories and all of that, what does this mean?
Okay, so thanks. Well, Comrade Afolabi alluded to some of it. So energy cost is a major cost component for most SMEs in Nigeria. So either you're talking about sole proprietorship, you're talking about partnership business, you're talking about small and medium scale enterprise. Energy cost covers close to 60 to 65% of their variable cost. So anytime there's a slight decline in that cost, automatically you see the effect in terms of lower prices for goods and services in Nigeria. And so let's not forget that inflation has also, before the rebasing of the inflation figures, inflation was moving at a geometric pace. And so energy cost was also one of the major drivers driving that inflation up. So now that we are having lower petrol prices, we are seeing farmers who basically move crops from their farmlands to the areas where they are being in demand of, would definitely see lower transportation costs as well. So I mean, the multiplier effect on the economy is also is huge, is immense. What we need to make sure is to make sure that we are seeing value for money, to make sure that people are, so when the prices go up, Nigerians are quick to hike prices, and so now that prices are going down, we should also follow the process and start questioning goods and services that we are not seeing the kind of downward trend in prices when petrol prices are also going down. So, and let's not also forget that international crude oil prices are also going down as well. I mean, all of these have multiple effects. But like Comrade said, it's a good thing. It's a welcome development. Everybody is in support of food deregulation. And as far as we get value from it, as far as there is job creation, as far as we are retaining that value addition in terms of oil and gas, because I mean, long time over the years, it's been embarrassing. Nigeria is Africa's biggest oil producing country, but yet we export all of our crude oil and we bring in all of our refined products. So hopefully we should see more to come in the coming months in 2025.
Thanks, Dikpo. And Comrade Afolabi, talking of competition, the government has justified the continuous issuance of petrol import license as to check a monopolistic market, so they say. But with the recurring price reductions by the Dangote refinery, seems to be dictating the pace with other importers, often panicking. Don't you think that this monopoly, they will fear? Don't you think that this monopoly that they fear will still show up?
I don't think so. The NNPC has refineries, and we have private refineries as well. And there is also space for any competitor to come in, whether local or foreign investors. Nobody is stopping them. So rather than being afraid of monopoly and stopping us from enjoying the benefit that the current scenario is giving us, we should encourage others to come in. I beg to ask, why are they interested in importation rather than pulling together and setting up refineries? No, we should ask that question. So we want to avoid monopoly by importation. It doesn't make sense. We should not leave our energy security to outsiders. Rather, government should encourage all those importers. Come, bring your resources together, come and invest here. But as long as government keep justifying the issuance of importation license based on avoiding monopoly, we keep having it. And they keep sabotaging the genuine effort of those investors in Nigeria. So we should avoid falling into that trap. Those who don't want the old system to go away, we should avoid falling into it. Okay, we've celebrated them over the year, but at whose expense? At the expense of ordinary masses, at the expense of employment, at the expense of our foreign reserves. So we should stop justifying what is wrong. Encourage local investors. We have Edo Refinery is improving. We have Watersmith Refinery. They are doing well. We have Niger Delta Refinery. They are doing well. And no matter how small the scale is, but they are doing something. And little effort will become big thing later when we aggregate everything together. There should be no justification for that. We should give maximum. This is the period we will stop importation and we encourage other people to come in. And you see, money of business is very interesting. When you look at, let's take another example of during rainy season, you see people selling roasted corn by the roadside. And another woman will say, this woman is making it, selling this. Let me also go instead of remaining idle. Let me also do it. And you see a lot of people doing it because they see that this woman selling this roasted meat by her roadside is also feeding her family. So also in big businesses, even Dangote is making it. So let other people come in and do it. Let's take government, pull resources together and do it. This is the simple logic. Thank you.
I hear you when you say that the government should instead encourage them to come and invest. But what do you think about crude supply challenges that we have also?
See, it is only when you don't start something, there will always be challenges and you address them. The current challenges about crude will be addressed. And we have it. And all these challenges are not beyond our solutions. They are not beyond our capacity to resolve. Even if they are bringing crude from outside to refine here. Yeah, we were once taking our crude out and getting refined product. West African markets is there. African market is there. So let's get crude from anywhere. But let's have domestic production. And we can turn it, value added, send it out. There's no justification for issuance of foreign import license to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade. Dikwa, I know you want to add something to that.
Okay, yeah, so competition is a good thing, and we should always encourage competition in the downstream sector. Fantastic. But where we are missing it is the idea that we need importers to compete with local refining. No, I think the ideal thing is we should have competition among local refineries in Nigeria. So we should have a Dangote refinery, for instance, competing with an NNPC refinery. We should have a Watersmith refinery, for instance, competing with a Dangote refinery in terms of supply of either diesel, jet fuel, or petroleum products.
Right.
We shouldn't be so much focused on giving, because again, you ask yourself, instead of putting all of these dollars to import products, why don't you use these dollars to build a refinery? So that's one. Rather than focus so much on giving import license to people, why don't we focus on solving our crude oil challenges? Why don't we focus on meeting all of the local refineries, making sure they have all of the crude oils they need? Then we can have, because let's not forget that the most important thing about being an oil producing country is that getting value for your crude oil. And the best way to get value is for you to domesticate the value chain of whatever goods and services you are producing, from the starting points to the end points. And you can't do that if you keep getting obsessed with importing petroleum products. So I believe in competition, but then I believe let's encourage local competition. Let's ask ourselves question, where are we in terms of Warri refinery? How many million liters of petrol are they refining now? Can they compete with, for instance, a Dangote refinery in terms of supplying the South-South markets? Or can a Watersmith compete with an NNPC refinery in terms of supplying the southeastern market. So, I mean, that's where we should have conversation on. That's my view.
So basically domestication and encouraging local competition. Comrade Afolabi, the tanker drivers recently had an issue with the Lagos state government over their operations along the Lekki-Ekpe corridor. Now this has led to the drivers threatening to withdraw their services. Has this issue been fully resolved, and what has been the role of the NUPENG in this?
Thank you for bringing this matter up. Let me appreciate the governor of Lagos State. He personally called and for the intervention. Apart from appreciating the governor, His Excellency, I need to talk about overzealous officials and Nigerians generally. We should appreciate what tanker driver is doing in this country. We have both, all of us have agreed just now that energy is the main driver of every form of business all over the world, either small, medium, or large scale. And even the comfort in our different homes, even this television interview and engagement we're having, it's because we have energy to drive it. But come to think of it, have we asked ourselves how this driver cope? Driving from Lagos to Kaduna, to Katsina, to Adamawa to deliver this product. Have you asked yourself, how are we getting this at our petrol station near us? These drivers are doing wonderful work. Nobody cares about how they are surviving. With this insecurity all over the country, bad roads on everywhere, and they drive day and night to ensure that we enjoy the comfort of our homes and we earn returns on our investment. There is no trailer park for tanker driver to rest anywhere in this country. Depots were being built, no concern, no care about the convenience of these trailer drivers. They would drive all the way. Before our pipelines were abandoned, we used to use pipeline, but now we depend solely on trucking. A driver may drive for 2 weeks, not seeing his family. We don't care where he has his convenience. If he's on the highway and he's pressed, we don't care what he does. He comes to Lagos, he has to wait to load product to go and deliver. Where he sleeps, nobody cares. When he's pressed, nobody cares. When he's sick, nobody cares. It is the union that is now making intervention, having health HMO for every driver on the wheel. Because we know that an unwell driver is an accident waiting to happen. So we have to engage an health insurance, an health provider that has about 2,000 hospitals across the country, that every way where you are going as a tanker driver, while you're on the wheel, if you are feeling unwell, park, let doctor examine you, let doctor attend to you. Nobody cares. When they are tired, where do they rest? You don't want accident. So, but who cares about when a driver is fatigued and wherever he's resting, is it safe or secure? We told our members not to drive in the night. So they loaded at Lekki axis. The loading took a long time and they couldn't go. It was around 4 or 5 o'clock. They had to park and wait for the morning to come for them to drive. Suddenly, some overzealous individuals with gun and all kind of gadget went there around 1 a.m. to attack the drivers. Pull them out from where they are sleeping, pull them out from their trucks, and took them to prison. It was an harrowing experience, very disheartening, very, very, very discomforting to hear the way they were treated. Why? We have lost humanity. Are these drivers less than human? All of you are in the comfort of your home. These drivers are serving the nation as well. So that was why the driver decided to withdraw their services from Lagos. If you don't care about them, if you treat them like ordinary criminal, yeah, let them withdraw. But we have resolved it, we have talked about it. But I'm laying this forward to Nigerians that appreciate what these drivers are doing. If you are a professor, if you are a medical doctor, it is just by his grace, by the grace of the situation of your birth that put you in that position. These tanker drivers too, they started from somewhere. Many of them will have loved to be the accountant, medical doctor. But the fortune of life put them, and they are rendering their service. Same way police are rendering services, same way military men are rendering services, the tanker drivers spend all their lives driving to make you comfortable, driving to make this economy move. We should respect and appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Afolabi, for that answer. I could sense and tell how much passion and concern in this conversation was for you. But you know, the regulator has recently had some limits recently. What capacity of trucks can carry to avoid disaster? What capacity can the trucks avoid to avoid disaster?
You want me to respond to the capacity that we avoid disaster?
Yes.
Okay. Accident, number one, accident can happen. Nobody wants accident. That's the definition of accident. But for over 10 years now, precisely around 2012, 2013, you know, we normally do regular training for tanker drivers on the wheel, the union. These are part of the expenses that we incur. So in 2012, I was the one leading the training in Warri, especially, I remember clearly. And one of the tanker drivers stood up and said, one of the major reasons for the recurrent accidents was as a result of the axle load, the size of the truck they are driving now. That was when it first struck me too, that now they are having 70,000 liter, 80,000 liter, 60,000 liters. And ordinarily, what we all knew when the pipelines were working was 33,000 liter truck. Over time, it moved, people started having 45,000 liters. And this comes as a result of the abandonment of the pipelines, which was originally planned as a system that from the 21 strategic depot that we had in this country then trucking would be for short duration of maximum of 150 kilometer radius. But when we abandoned the pipeline, we had to rely heavily on trucking. Now, businessmen started increasing the capacity. They want to get as much load, as much product as possible to every station to evacuate from their depots, those private depots. And that was when they started increasing from 40, 33, 45, 50, 60, 70, 80. Sometimes we have 90,000. They called some of 90,000, 100,000 Boko Haram trucks. And the impact generally on the driver, on the road itself, and the recurrence of accidents and fatality of these accidents are so enormous. So we started advocacy against these trucks. And during the regime of President Buhari and Mr. Rajiv Fashola as Minister of Works, we were moving towards having this kind of decision that no truck bigger than 45,000 liters should be allowed on our roads. We also look at even the issue of importation of this open body, that the effect on our roads are enormous. So a committee was set up then in 2019, 2020, and we visited the ports, we visited the toll gates, so that there will be reintroduction of way bridges. That anybody found carrying beyond this, there will be portion beside the way bridge where they will transload and things like that. But it never saw the light of the day until recently, until very, very recently, when we had the unfortunate incidences of accidents and fire and people scooping petroleum products. So it was decided at the meeting as part of mitigating against this that no truck with capacity above 60,000 should be allowed to load from our depots across the country. And no truck above 60,000 should be allowed to also traverse our highway. That's the decision so far, that from 1st of March, and that later in the year, maybe we should also review it. Maybe we'll go down to 45,000 or thereabout, just in the interest of the public and the interest of our nation, that life of Nigerians are very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Afolabi. No trucks above 60,000 allowed to traverse our highway. We'll see how that turns out from here. But thank you very much for your time this morning, as well as you, Dipo Oladende, for spending your morning with us this morning on The Big Story. That's all we can take right now. Stay tuned for more updates on BDTV.
watching Business Day Television.
Good afternoon and welcome to the BDTV News at noon. I am Norma Obuna. First, let's see stories making headlines this afternoon. Fubara dismisses impeachment rumor as Rivers elders caution federal government. LG funding. Government agencies brainstorm at direct payments of a setback. FAN to shut Lagos Airport runway for repairs again. Mineral deal ready to sign, says Zenliski. Anthony Joshua moves up in latest heavyweight rankings. We begin the news in Nigeria, where the Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, has on Sunday, February 2nd, dismissed fears of impeachment following Friday's Supreme Court judgment recognizing the 27 lawmakers loyal to ex-Governor Nyesom Wike. In its far-reaching verdict on Friday, the Apex Court ordered the federal government to stop financial allocation to Rivers State until Fubara retraces his steps and presents the budget to the pro-Wike lawmakers led by Martins Amawule. The court also nullified the local government election conducted last year by Fubara. Meanwhile, the Rivers elders who have been supporting Fubara since his crisis with Wike began in 2023 advised the governor against going to beg his estranged political godfather following the unfavorable Supreme Court judgment. Moving on, the Accountant General of the Federation, Oluwatoyin Madeng, and the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi San, have commenced talks on the implementation of the July 11, 2024 Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy as direct allocation disbursements to the 774 local government areas continues to suffer delay. This was continued in the Federation Account Allocation Committee Technical Subcommittee meeting, minutes obtained by newsmen. In a move to enforce the verdict, the two senior officials have been holding consultations on the modalities for submitting local government areas' bank accounts for direct payment of council allocation. According to reports, there have been challenges identifying local government areas with democratically elected officials. To end the news, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, has announced the temporary closure of a major runway to Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, for rehabilitation work. The closure, scheduled for March 3rd and 4th, comes just 2 weeks after the runway was reopened following an 11-month maintenance shutdown. In a memo dated February 28, FAN's head of operations, J.U. Wonsu, cited safety concerns, stating that construction equipment at the A2 taxiway link could pose a hazard to landing and departing aircraft. The memo, addressed to the airport manager and the regional general manager of the Southwest region, emphasized the necessity of the closure to prevent operational risks. On the foreign scene, President Volodymyr Zelensky has revealed that Ukraine is prepared to sign a minerals agreement with the United States. He revealed that the deal remains on the table despite a failed attempt to finalize it during his recent visit to Washington. Speaking after a summit in London on Sunday, February 2nd, Zelensky maintained a constructive stance on the proposed agreement, which aims to facilitate the joint exploitation of Ukraine's vast mineral resources as part of post-war recovery efforts. To end the news, former two-time world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua has moved 2 spots up in the latest Ring Magazine heavyweight rankings, despite his knockout loss to Daniel Dubois. Anthony Joshua last fought in September 2024 at Wembley Stadium, where he suffered a knockout defeat against Dubois. Meanwhile, Alexander Usyk remains in a class of his own above the top 10, while Tyson Fury is ranked number 1 despite announcing his retirement in January. Fury's decision came after back-to-back losses to Usyk in 2024, his first defeats of his professional career. Thanks for joining the BDTV News at noon. Stay tuned for more updates.
Good morning and welcome to the BDTV Breakfast Show. I am Bethel Odujabi.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
And this is the social listening segment on the BDTV Breakfast Show.
We're talking about the Fly Nigeria Act. Can you give us a background into what this is about?
We are here today on the streets of Lagos, Nigeria, to gather opinion about a pressing issue.
I go look at the cost of petrol.
We get very Nigeria with the suffer.
The income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased.
Nothing like service again, no. You only pray for that money to reach you that month.
There's a lot of high pressure, a lot of stress. There's a lot of high targets to be met.
I was quite strict. In my mind, I said, looking for my hand, my picking go spoil.
To allow all banks and all the players in the space
15% inflation target achievable in 2025.
The command and vision philosophy of both the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, and indeed all the service chiefs